So again, I welcome you. We are going to discuss relate the heat transfer coefficient. After understanding the convection processes, it's the heat transfer coefficient and its calculation. Understanding the individual heat transfer coefficient and the overall heat transfer coefficient, that is important. What is the difference between the local heat transfer coefficient, individual heat transfer coefficient, and the overall heat transfer coefficient? Now, there is a certain metal wall or metal plate. On one side of this metal plate, we are having the hot fluid, and on the another side, that is the cold fluid which is available. This hot fluid is at a temperature T1 and this cold fluid is at a temperature T6. This is the bulk temperature, the overall temperature that is being talked. Now, the fluid is forming a film, a liquid film that is formed just beside this metal plate. That is called the hot fluid film. The hot fluid forms a fluid film, a stagnant liquid fluid film that is being formed on the one side of this metal plate or metal surface. On the another side, where the cold fluid that is there, it also forms a liquid film, and this liquid films, they provide the resistance for the heat flow. Now you can see the temperature gradient here. The bulk temperature is T1. However, the liquid film, which is the imaginary dotted line which has been shown here, its temperature is T2. There is a big drop of temperature in this liquid film. The T3 is the temperature on the hot side, or hot fluid side of this metal plate. T4 is the temperature on the cold fluid side of this hot plate. T5 is the film temperature, and T6, that is the bulk temperature. So there are 6 different temperatures considering the two films. One is the bulk temperature, second is the film temperature, third is the one side of the metal wall temperature, fourth is the another side of the metal wall temperature, fifth is the second film temperature, and third is the bulk cold fluid temperature. Once these temperatures they have been understood, then it is easy to calculate the heat transfer coefficients. So these are all your resistances, that is resistance offered by the hot fluid film, resistance offered by the cold fluid film, resistance offered by the metal wall. Now these are the 3 resistances that is known. Then the resistance offered by the scale formation on the hot fluid side and the scale formation on the cold fluid side. So one can add the another resistance, that is the resistance because of the scaling. So on this metal surface there is this scaling or the dirt that has been formed, and this dirt that is also providing the resistance for the heat transfer. The dirt coefficient on the cold side, the dirt coefficient on the hot side. Both the sides of the film you are having a dirt coefficient. Whenever it's a pure or polished metal, there are only these dirt coefficients, they are neglected, or else mostly it is the dirt coefficient that is coming into the picture. So this is the resistance offered by the scale formation on the hot fluid side and scale formation on the cold fluid side. That is nothing but the dirt factor, dirt, that is the accumulation of the salts. We will see the different reasons for the accumulation. Then resistance to the heat transfer by the hot fluid film and the cold fluid film depends on this fluid velocity and the viscosity of the fluid. These are the some important factors, that is your fluid velocity and fluid density, that is going to affect the heat transfer coefficient. Then the surface structure, surface area, then your thermal properties. All these are the different factors which are influencing the heat transfer coefficient. If the fluid velocity is high, the fluid film thickness that is reduced. That depends on your fluid velocity. The fluid film thickness. This fluid film thickness that is going to depends on the velocity. Higher the velocity, lower will be the thickness. As well as higher the velocity, lesser will be the scale formation. The scale formation over the pipe surface occurs due to the dissolved solute in the fluid and build up on the solid surfaces, which offers the heat transfer resistance. Now, we will calculate the overall heat transfer resistance. So, this overall heat transfer resistance, that is based on U0 or U outside and U inside. That is one way, or U overall, that can be considered. This is heat transfer coefficient based on the outside surface area, heat transfer coefficient based on the inside surface area, and U is the overall heat transfer coefficient. So three different categories that is incorporated for overall heat transfer coefficient. Overall heat transfer coefficient based on the outside surface area, overall heat transfer coefficient based on the inside surface area, and U is the overall heat transfer coefficient. So this overall heat transfer resistance is calculated by summation of all these resistances. Summation of all these resistances. So which are these resistances? That is resistances offered by the hot fluid film, cold fluid film, metal wall, resistances because of the scaling formation. First we will consider only the three resistances: the hot fluid film, cold fluid film, and the metal wall resistance. That is, this is the first X upon K, that is because of the metal wall resistance. HI, that is the inside heat transfer coefficient. HO, that is the outside heat transfer coefficient. Now, when you calculate the U0, that is based on your outside surface area, so area that is to be considered, it's a ratio of A0 upon AI, has to be multiplied to the 1 upon HI. Similarly, X upon K, there also you are multiplying with the ratio of A0 upon AW. This is the average area again, outside outside area and the average area. So 1 upon HO, that is the outside heat transfer coefficient, and this 1 upon UO, that is going to give you the overall heat transfer resistance. 1 upon UO is overall heat transfer resistance, and 1 upon UO, only UO, that is the heat transfer, overall heat transfer coefficient based on the outside area. Similarly, when you calculate for the UI, that is the overall heat transfer coefficient based on the inside surface area, there we are going to multiply by the AI upon AW and AI upon AO to the HO. So this is to be remembered. And whenever it's a thin tube, that means your wall outside surface area and inside surface area, they are not going to vary to a larger extent. So we are considering the overall heat transfer coefficient by eliminating this area correction. So 1 upon HI plus XW upon K plus 1 upon HO. Now, if the metal wall resistance that is neglected, so this overall heat transfer coefficient that becomes equals to 1 upon U, 1 upon HI plus 1 upon HO. Now, next is the addition of the dirt factors. Till now, we have talked related to these three resistances. Now, we will add the another two resistances, the scale formation in addition to the fluid films, metal wall. Now the scale formation or the dirt factor that is to be added. So HID and HOD are the fouling or the dirt scale resistances, are the dirt factors or the scale that is developed. So the basic equation that becomes the same, that is nothing but the 1 upon UO, 1 upon UO, 1 upon HI plus AO upon AI plus XW upon K, AO upon AW plus 1 upon HO. Now, in addition to this, we are having the dirt factors here. That is HID and HOD, they have been added. HID and HOD. Whenever you calculate the UO, then DO upon DI, that is to be multiplied. So similarly, in case of your 1 upon UI, here we are multiplying the DI upon DO to HOD as well as HO. For both, you have to multiply by DO, DI upon DO. How that derivation that is developed, you can also calculate or consider the temperature gradients, which is equal to the Q which is equal to HA delta T temperature gradient for the inside heat transfer coefficient, then for the metal wall resistances, then for the outside heat transfer coefficient, all the temperature gradients, they have been mentioned. So overall temperature gradients that has to be taken into account, and the individual heat transfer coefficient that has to be taken into account. So your relation, that is Q, which is equal to the UIAI into bracket T1 minus T4 or UO into AO. This is what the difference has to be noted down. When you take the UI, your inside surface area that is to be taken into account. When you mention the outside surface area, then you are calculating the UO. That is, U and UO are the overall heat transfer coefficient based on the inside and outside surface area respectively. So the same equation you are getting what we have discussed previously. Then there is a local heat transfer coefficient that is also one of the important factors that is to be taken into account. Now here H is the local heat transfer coefficient. This equation that is our nothing but the Newton's law of cooling. And this convective heat transfer coefficient is actually a complicated function of nature of the fluid flow, thermal properties of the fluid, the configuration of the system, all these different factors that is going to depend on this heat transfer coefficient. So, due to the variation of flow conditions from point to point, understand this, what is local heat transfer coefficient? Whenever the fluid that is flowing over a certain plate or inside the pipe, so if this is the plate which is available, and to this pipe the certain boundary layer that is observed, and here this certain velocity is there, here this certain different velocity is there, here this certain different velocity is there. So depending on these different velocities, you will get the different heat transfer coefficients. Because the heat transfer coefficient that depends on the fluid flow properties, and this fluid flow properties, they mainly dependent on the fluid velocity. So the variation of fluid velocity is observed at different points on the different surfaces. On the same surface, you will get the different velocities. So this is the variation of flow conditions from point to the point. The value of Q and the heat transfer coefficient along the surface also vary, and this is the adjective local is applied to them, that is the total heat transfer rate may be obtained by, so it is called the local heat transfer coefficient. That is because the fluid properties, they are different at different points. For that purpose, we have to do the averaging of that. So integrating this thing, the above equation, to obtain the overall heat transfer coefficient H. So our H average, that is the average or integral form of your total heat transfer coefficient. H bar as the average or the total heat transfer coefficient. This H bar, we are considering this H bar, that is the average total heat transfer coefficient. We are not considering the point or the local heat transfer coefficient. We are considering the average total heat transfer coefficient. Now looking at the different values of the heat transfer coefficient. It's a steam and the water that is having the higher heat transfer coefficient, more than 2000. For water, it's the around 2000. For gases and the molten salt, it is the lower values of the heat transfer coefficient, that is 35. When it's air and molten salt, again, whenever there is air or a gas that is observed, you are getting the lower heat transfer coefficient. And if it's a natural heat transfer coefficient, then again these values will become very less, around 3 to 5. That can be the values if it's a natural convection. If it is a forced convection, these values that can be up to 100 watt per meter square degree Celsius. Then we have also talked related to the fouling factor. Now, this fouling factor, they are dependent on the certain factors. That is, fouling can be defined as the deposition of unwanted material on the heat transfer surface. It's an unwanted material which is getting deposited on the surface of the heat transfer. So, this offers an extra additional resistance for the heat transfer. And as a result of this additional resistance, you require the more heat transfer area. So sizes of your equipment which you design, they may not function properly if there is a higher deposition of the material, higher deposition of this unwanted material, and as a result of higher resistances that will be developed. So your equipments, they may fail sometimes only because of this higher fouling resistances. Then the performance of heat exchanger goes down because of this. Then fouling resistance, flow passages that can be reduced, cross-sectional area that is reduced. As a result, pressure drop, velocity increases, so pressure drop also increases. So these are the different reasons why one has to avoid this unnecessary deposition, understand the reasons behind this unnecessary deposition because of different salts, algae, whatever the reason it may be. But they are adding you the extra cost. It requires higher heat transfer area, performance of the heat exchanger goes down, flow passages area that is reduced, pressure drop that is increased. As the pressure drop increases, so you require the more pumping cost. So increases the capital cost, working cost, and you require the higher heat transfer areas. So you will require the increased capital cost. Higher heat transfer area, that means you have to design the higher capacities, higher volumes, so that higher volumes when we are designing, we are going to increase this initial investment cost. So higher maintenance costs, losses of the throughput, shutdown costs, all these are the different factors in terms of the cost that is going to affect due to this fouling. Now, what are the different types of the foulings? This is precipitation fouling, particulate fouling, chemical reaction fouling, corrosion fouling, biological fouling, solidification fouling. So these are the different types of the fouling that will exist in case of the heat exchangers. Generally, the precipitation fouling, it is the because of the dissolved substances like calcium carbonate or calcium sulfate salts, different salts, magnesium salts are there in the water, they can be deposited on the surface and they offer the extra additional resistance for the heat transfer. These salts have inherently soluble characteristics. At a higher velocity, there is a less deposition of these salts. So, turbulence, higher velocities, that is going to reduce this precipitation fouling. Then there is a particulate fouling. It is the accumulation of suspended particles present in the fluid on the heat transfer surface. It is called as the sedimentation fouling. particulate fouling or the sedimentation. Sedimentation of the particles. Suspended particles, they are getting settled. There is a difference. Salts getting deposited and the suspended particles that is also getting deposited. Then chemical reaction fouling. Some chemical reaction between the various components, that is your metal wall, and some chemicals from your fluid which is getting passed through that is going to form the certain layers, or certain examples of chemical reaction fouling are the coking and cracking of the hydrocarbons, and in case of your polymerization industries also, coking is observed in your petrochemical industries, where the coke formation of that is noted on your wall surfaces. Then corrosion fouling, that is also there. Because of the corrosion, the certain scale that is deposited on the metal, and this also acts as an additional resistance. Then there is a biological fouling. It occurs due to the attachment of micro as well as macroorganisms on the heat transfer surface. This is biological development, and for that purpose certain chemicals like your chlorine or bleaching powder, that is generally added as your treatment in case to avoid this biological fouling. Then solidification foulings. It occurs due to the solidification of the liquid on subcooling heating surfaces. So these are the different types of the fouling, and this fouling that can be manipulated with the certain factors, that is your fluid velocity, fluid temperature, material of construction, surface finish of the material. All these are going to affect these fouling processes.